Welcome to my channel. Do you want to bake or eat a nice Italian white bread like you know it from your Italian vacation? My name is Jürgen and I show you how it works. The ingredients are already prepared. We have here 400 grams flour type 550 or type 0, 100 grams semolina, 350 grams cold water, 30 grams olive oil, 1.5 grams dry yeast, 11 grams of salt and 50 grams of Lievito Madre. If you don't have a Lievito Madre, it doesn't matter. Leave it away, then take only 10 grams of salt and add 0.5 dry yeast, so in sum 2 grams of dry yeast. Now we add all our ingredients into the dough machine or into the mixer. We start with the water, then we add the flour, as next the yeast, our olive oil, the Lievito Madre if you have one, and the salt is kept out because the salt is added only in 2 or 3 minutes after the mixing phase, which means we start now the mixer at the lowest speed. We mix the dough for around 2 minutes. After 2 minutes we add the salt, and when the salt is added we increase the speed of the mixer and we mix the dough in some round about 20 minutes until the window test is working. Now I think the dough is ready. To check the dough, we take some flour into our hands and then we remove a piece of dough. We shape a ball in our hands and then we try to stretch the dough between our fingers, and you can see it's perfectly kneaded. The gluten structure is built. Now I take it out of the machine and put it into such a dough box. I covered the bottom with olive oil. I would highly recommend such a box. If you have such a box, it's fantastic. You can place all your doughs there. The size is perfect to put the box into the fridge, and in the next videos I will create when we bake pizza, we need such a box as well. The dough is now in the box. I close the box with the lid. If you don't have such a box, you can use any bowl or a baking tray. Important is that you cover the dough with foil or with any lid. It's important that the dough doesn't get dry, so it needs to be covered from the air. Otherwise, if the surface of the dough gets dry, it's not nice to work further with the dough. The dough can rise now between 4 and 5 hours at room temperature. In the time between, we do 2 or 3 times stretch and fold. After 1 hour, it's time to do the first stretch and fold. For stretch and fold, it's the easiest to cover your hand with water, and then you go and stretch the dough from all the sides into the length and then put it back to the center. This has the advantage the dough gets new oxygen and the gluten structure is built fantastically. And you already can see here the surface of the dough is absolutely nice. We repeat this step now 1 or 2 times until end of the leavening time. Important to cover the dough again. The dough had now for me a leavening time of 4.5 hours. In the time in between I did 2 times stretch and fold. And now it's time to shape the dough. To shape the dough, we take some flour and put the flour on top of the dough, and also some flour to our counter. Then we take the dough out of the box and put it onto the counter. Now we stretch the dough a little bit to the length and in the other direction. And then from the left and from the right we fold it a little bit, and then we roll the dough up. I already prepared a baking paper. We put now this dough onto the baking paper, because afterwards it's then easier to launch the dough into the oven. Now we cover the dough with a towel. The dough needs to raise again 45 minutes, and in the time between we preheat our oven to 250 degrees, upper and lower heat, so no ventilation. Now it's time for baking. I want to say a few words to the setup of my oven. At the bottom of the oven I have a baking form which is filled with lava stones. We need this because we have to produce steam in the oven. You can produce the steam also with a spray bottle or with a normal baking tray or whatever. How we produce steam I will show you a bit later when I launch the bread. The steam is required because we have to protect the surface of the bread from drying out. If the surface of the bread or the top of the bread would get too quickly dry or hard, the bread can't raise as we want in the oven. Then in the lower part of the oven I have an upside down baking tray where I want to launch my bread on side. You can also use a pizza stone or a baking steel or whatever. Here you can see now the setup of the oven. At the bottom the baking form with the lava stones, and here the upside down baking tray. I launch now the bread, add some water to produce steam, close the door and reduce the temperature to 210 degrees. Our bread is now in the oven. In 20 minutes we have to release the steam. We have to take out, or we have to open the door. We have to take out the box or whatever we have where we poured the water in. We remove this and then we continue baking for additional 15 minutes so that the total baking time will be around 35 minutes. It depends also always on the oven. Now it's time to take the bread out of the oven. Look here. Doesn't it look absolutely beautiful? Now it's important that the bread gets cold and then we can cut it. I can't wait for it. Now it's time to cut the bread. I'm absolutely happy about it. And now let's cut the bread. Oh, it looks amazing. Look here. Let me cut down one slice to be able to taste it. Now let me taste the bread. It's totally soft inside, it tastes fantastic. A huge recommendation to bake it as well. If you like this video, it would be fantastic if you would watch the next one as well. Thanks for watching this video and ciao, see you soon.